Last week on the Heart of the Matter.
In summary, we've agreed that not all of us agree on the need for national conference, but whether we agree or not, we agree that we should all participate in it since it is going to happen. Okay, that's the first thing. Then we've also agreed that we need to talk about our identity as a people. We need to talk about the way we run our governments. We need to talk about the way we divide resources. We need to talk about issues like state police or religion, so many religion. All of these are issues that need to be talked about, and that what we need to have is representation by the people that make up Nigeria, the different ethnic nationalities, the professions, the religions, and so on. Does that capture it?
Oh yes, it does.
This week, the Heart of the Matter speaks to Nigerians from various walks of life who share their thoughts and expectations on the National Dialogue Conference and who they believe they are as Nigerians.
My name is Udwak Obong Patrick. I'm from Akwa Ibom State, Bad-Enin local government, Asong village. I was born in my home state, but I grew up in Kaduna. Parts of my formative years were also in Lagos. I did my secondary school in Ogbomoso, Oyo State Federal Government College. University, Edo State, that's University of Benin. NYC, I go back to Lagos. I love this country. I believe it was set up by God. The reason why we're here today and the reason why we're all born into this great nation was divinely orchestrated. That's what I believe.
I had my first set of education in Delta State between Warri and Sapele, and then my higher education at University of Ibadan. I think I spent about 12 years in Ibadan because immediately after graduation I went for my youth service, which was somewhere in the east.
I am a Nigerian, Yoruba, Akwa Ibom girl. Born in the USA, raised in Lagos. Family is from Akwa Ibom State. So Nigerian, Yoruba, Akwa Ibom girl.
My experience of Nigeria has been incredible in the sense that we've gone through different phases. There's no nation in the world that hasn't gone through some sort of struggle or the other, but it's how they come out of it and what they do with that experience, how they learn from that experience. We may have lost some of our values. These are independent ethnic values because, of course, Nigeria is a mixed match of over 200 ethnic groups, well over 700 languages. You know, all of that mixed together. We have our independent identities. We may have seemed to lose that some way because we're trying to develop or find what works for us as a whole unit.
Nigeria is a diversified nation with diversity in terms of ethnicity, culture, and tradition. Sadly, this diversity has not been properly managed both by the colonial masters before their exit and then the leaders that we have had over time. And I think that is why we have all of the problems that we have in the country today.
The diversity was what Lagos was about. You had the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Hausas, all kinds of different people, a very cosmopolitan city. So I really enjoyed it, and I personally value diversity. When I was growing up, my friends were from everywhere. I will tell you that in my local city where I lived, again back to Ejigbo, I spent a lot of time in Ikeja, but more time in Ejigbo. When there would be disputes, then you would hear, for example, the Yoruba say, or you hear the Igbos saying, those Yoruba people, but that was about the extent of it, really. There wasn't where you ever really felt like you couldn't affiliate with other people because of where they were from.
The national conference, let me just say this. The scripture says that we should be like the sons of Issachar, who understood the times and seasons, and they didn't just understand the times and seasons, they knew what to do in that season. That's the key point there, that they knew what to do. Now, this is a season of national conference. The president has called for a national conference, but what are we going there to do? That's the question. What is the aim? What's the objective? What's the purpose? Some would say it's not the brightest of ideas, or it's not the brightest of moves. It's not meant to happen. We don't need it. But if this season is for the national conference, what are we supposed to do about it?
The constitution as we have it today does not give room, for the legislative arm of government to take on any introduction, to take on any new findings or resolution of the people. So if you have a dialogue, the outcome of the dialogue may not find its way into the constitution. So what is the whole essence when it will not find its way into the constitution and become a working document that will guide Nigerians? But the other way I want to look at it is, okay, since we have this bottleneck, is the presidency saying, okay, since the bottleneck is there, let's find another way to go around it. So let's have a dialogue. At the end of the dialogue, we come up with resolutions. This is what we want as a people to guide us going forward. Would that now be what we would be referring to up until the time where it will find its way into the constitution and become a working document? So that's how I want to look at it. And by and large, I would say it's a nice action in the right direction.
Well, I see it more from a political perspective. I think that's just for purposes of different parties and the 2015 upcoming election. I think it has absolutely no bearing on the reality of things. How much talking do you need to do? Nigerians are notorious for talking. We could certainly be orators. We would win any award. I mean, I talk, you talk, we all talk. Have you ever gone online, offline? Where don't you see Nigerians that don't have an opinion? We have an opinion about everything. We're beyond that. Now it's about being practical. Where does that translate to in terms of the kind of country that we want to have now and what we want to have in future? I think fundamentally we can all agree that when in the final analysis, it's about security, it's about basic accessibility to be able to work and create shelter and protection for your family, and also education. So we've entrusted the government to get it done. Why are we talking? We're not in an election campaign.
The first thing I think that we need to talk about is, who are we? Who are we? Let us define who the Nigerian is. That's the first thing. Who are we? When we define who a Nigerian is, then we set up our values. Like I said earlier, we have over 200 ethnic groups. Each of these groups have their different independent identities. All right, I stand for something as an Ibibio man. Somebody else stands for something as a Urhobo man. Somebody else stands for something as a Yoruba man, as an Ijaw man. Now, in all of this, there is a common identity. There is a common value. That is what we can use to identify ourselves and define who a Nigerian is. Then we set our values.
One of the things primarily that I do not want discussed at all is whether we should remain as a nation or whether we should split. That should not come at all in the equation, because if we split, what will happen is we will reduce whatever strength we currently have. Look at the European Union today. As of today, Latvia just joined, increasing their population to some 333 million thereabout. If we split, we're only decimating ourselves, we're only reducing our strength, if we have any at all. So we should not consider whether we should remain as an entity or whether we should split. We are an entity, we should remain an entity.
We talk a lot about not having respect for the rule of law. I believe what needs to happen within that focus is we need to go back and say, who are the people making the law and who are the ones charged with the responsibility of carrying it out? We know who is making the law, the legislators. How do we hold them accountable? First of all, our people need to be even educated about the legislative process. How do we take a bill from point A to point Z, where ultimately now it becomes law? Most people don't know. They don't even know the influence that's necessary for them to be able to have their constituents who represent them, get their interests and their issues addressed on the floor of the Senate or the House of Assembly. We don't have that. So it becomes incumbent on both people, the constituents who are elected, as well as Nigerian citizens themselves, to rally and have a basic education on that. Here in the US, and I'm in Sacramento, which is basically the capital here of California, where a lot of the legislative things happen, there's a booklet that's presented to citizens. Hey, this is how it works. This is how your process works. There are grassroots efforts. There are lobby organizations. That just rulemaking, the public is called upon to give its comments and let people know their stance.
I think it should be an open forum where people with credible standing, people who have had the experiences from bottom up, not up to the bottom, people who are homegrown, people who may not necessarily understand the system, but know the system. People like you and me.
As a people, you find that we have agreed, we have embraced each other, but politically, there is this divide. And when we look at things from that political lens, we would always have the divide. So let us take the political lens out of it and then see ourselves as individuals. Now, who's the best person to represent any Nigerian? It has to be someone who is vast up there, someone who can take an analysis of something, because the truth is the past gives birth to the future. Now, someone who can look at the past and say, this is what we have done, and this is what we did right, and this is what we did wrong. So let us take from what we did right and what other nations have done right and embed it in what we are doing now, so that going forward, we are almost always right. So basically, I'm saying a professional. We have seen pastors that have failed. We have seen traditional rulers that have failed. But these are the same people that should be involved in this discussion, and not a tribal thing, a Yoruba person or an Igbo person or an Yoruba person. No, it's not a tribal thing. But do I have the background to involve myself in a forward-looking arrangement? That should be the focus. Nigerians have not been involved in anything that is happening in this country. And we keep talking about the ruling class and the minority. If we get ourselves involved, the minority or the masses, we are always, so much more than the ruling class, right? The 80-20 principle says 20% of your effort into something gives 80% of your result. So if we want to develop our system, then more people should be involved in what is happening in the country. So when this dialogue starts, more Nigerians should be involved. Tune into the radio, read papers, find out what is happening, and thank God for social media today. Through various means, you can be heard.
We Nigerians need to take responsibilities for where the country is. And if we can't change our own little corners, no one is saying go out and save the world. We're just saying, truly practice basic principles you were raised. Say hi, thank you, don't cheat, don't steal. Those basic fundamentals. Practice those and you have a different Nigeria.
For me, a Nigerian is anyone who loves the entity called Nigeria, who loves the idea of the North, South, East, and West remaining together as an entity and forging ahead. A Nigerian is someone who wishes for this country to someday stand amongst the first 5 nations in the world. In my view, that is a Nigerian.
A Nigerian is a person who is resilient, smart, who's innovative, who's usually, in my experience, 2-3 steps ahead of the curve, who on any subject, any topic, can take you on head on. Brilliant people, strong people. Our history, even before we got to Nigeria, historically, and how we evolved to the land we now call Nigeria, is that of warriors and people of strength and pride. Those are Nigerians. Of course, there are issues that come with it, like any other society. I mean, America is not crime-free. America has its own stereotypes and issues. Every country does. But in the final analysis, that's who Nigerians are. That's who a Nigerian is. When you meet a Nigerian, regardless where they are across the globe, they stand out. It's just who we are. It is what it is.
A Nigerian is that person who loves God, and loves his country. A Nigerian is that person who loves his fellow Nigerian. A Nigerian is that person who respects the Constitution and will do everything to uphold the Constitution. A Nigerian is that person who sees beyond the difficulties and challenges and sees the potential and the possibilities that abound. A Nigerian is that person who would wake up in the morning and confess positive about this nation. The Nigerian is that person who would stand, like Hezekiah said, I will stand upon my watch. I'll set myself upon the ramparts and see what God will say and hear what God will say. The Nigerian is the person who will stand in the gap for Nigeria on his knees, in spite of religion, in spite of whatever religion you belong to. If you stay on your knees and pray for this country, that is who a Nigerian is. A Nigerian is that person who would do everything and anything to make this country a better place. Because he's making it, when the nation becomes a better place, it's not just for him, it's for generations to come. A Nigerian is that person who would see God in his fellow Nigerian. That is who a Nigerian is and should be.
The idea of coming together, everything they say dialogue works. For me, dialogue works. So give me the chance. I think it's not a bad idea. If two or more people come together and say this is what I think, or this is what I think, or this is what I think, even if finally at the end nothing comes out of the dialogue, but at least coming together to say this is what I think, and it's a start. It's a start. I think I support it.
Honestly speaking, this is my first time of hearing it, and I don't really know what it's all about, because things like this would have been better to be passed on through the air, and unfortunately Nigerians, known for the lack of power supply, for them to get across to other people, passing this information is very hard for us to.
We are Nigerians, and we all have this, how am I going to put it? We all have this one straightforward thinking. We're all concerned about ourselves. Okay, you just want a few, or let's say just few people that are concerned about what you do or what happens to you. So I think growing up in the Nigerian, I'll be able to know how to cater for myself. As I cater for myself, I look at myself alone, except for my younger ones,
It's very interesting because we have diverse cultures here in Lagos. We have the Yorubas, the Igbos, we have the Hausas and other little tribes. Living with them, well, I've seen a lot, good and bad. But in all, we tend to find a way to live in peace and harmony, to avoid chaos, to avoid hassles and stuff like that.
I believe when you say dialogue, it's when two or more disagree, you understand, and you want them to come together to a compromise or to an agreement, you understand? But before you can do that, I believe people at the top should call themselves first, sit down, sort themselves out, because common man, street man, no matter what you say, you are just talking to yourself, you understand? Because they all have deaf ears. In as much as all their pockets are full of money, full of stuff like that, they just don't mind him. The guy is hungry, you understand? That's why he's saying that,
Well, if Nigeria can take a step like that towards making, or a way of making good things to happen here in Nigeria, well, it's a good idea though. But honestly, I don't really think it may work out.
I think it's a good thing that at last some group of people are thinking about God, sitting together and think about how to solve the problems, the issues that we are having around here. So I think it's a good program, idea, whatever.
Personally, we've been talking about this for ages and nothing or little has been done. So I don't know, coming together to talk might not really improve anything unless we are hopeful that it would. But from previous cases, nothing really has been done on the previous ones that have been talked about, let alone a new talk again. So I'm not sure something good will come out of it, but let's hope that something good comes out of this one.
It's a good Nigerian. It's the way I would define it. A good Nigerian should be somebody that is ready to listen to the voice of the people underneath.
I think a Nigerian is me or you. I see Nigerians as a set of people that have a survival instinct that I've not seen anywhere else. Fela call it suffering and smiling, but I call it just being real. You don't have to complain or fight or carry placard or start fighting like Egyptians and sorry to mention countries, but at least Nigerians to an extent were trying. I see a Nigerian as one that has understood the society. This is what the government is offering. And I take over and offer myself the rest. If government is trying to this extent, I'm trying to the extent, coming together while living. A Nigerian is a survivor. It's a man or a woman that just takes the bull in the horn and start working.
I think what makes me a Nigerian is to be able to, like, you know what is good for my country, do it, and just for the progress of the Nigerian country, whatever.
If you ask me, as a common Nigerian, I want everybody to forget about where or he comes from, you understand? And believe we are one Nigeria. The Nigeria you are born into, the Nigeria you have met, you understand? Sacrifice for it. And I believe if we are all ready to sacrifice for this country, it's going to be a better place. But when we are not ready for that, I'm sorry.
Ni a matsayina na ɗan Najeriya, a gane abinda shugabanni yanzu suke a ciki. Shugaba bai san da talaka ba. Duk wani shugaban da ya hau kan umma mulkin ƙasa ne, umma mulkin jiha ne, umma mulkin state ne, to ba ruwan shi da talaka. Mu kuma abinda muke so yanzu, mu 'yan ƙasa muna son duk wani shugaba da aka zaɓa shi bangaren siyasa to ya san cewar talakawa ne suke zaɓen shi. Yanzu abin da ya kamata ma a riƙa wa mutane yanzu ba shi ne ake ba. In ka hau kan mulki wai ka ɗebi kuɗin ƙasa ka tafi wani gurin ga yanzu hanya daga nan Lagos zuwa Kano a kullum an rasa mutane sama da 100 saboda problem ɗin, kuma ƙasar nan ba wai babu kuɗin ba ne, da kuɗin da za a je a yi aiki kowa da kowa ya huta babu. Yanzu talaka ta kama nan, yanzu talaka ya kwana ya wuni yana neman abin da zai sa a bakinsa kuma ta kasance ma bai samu ba. To saboda haka mu muna so, mu kuma ba mun ce wane ya hau kan mulki wannan ba, mu duk mutumin da yake so zai hau kan mulki mai adalci wanda zai kula da talakawa, to mu yi muke so kawai. To shi kasan mutane yanzu su kansu shugabannin nan idan an yi wani juyin su ce su ba san wannan abu yaya yake ba, to amma su sun sani tunda komai a hannunsu ne, ka gane. Wannan fadace da ake a ƙasar nan su suna cewa ba san yanda ya za su yi abun ba, kuma amma duka san wani abu da ka sani yana ƙarƙashin su. Ya kamata su rika fitowa ƙarara su faɗi abin da yake na gaskiya, in dai gaskiya ake so fa, ba wai abu za ka yi don san ranka ba. Ni ma da nake faɗa wannan ba wai ina faɗa abu don san raina ba, kuma ni talaka ne yanzu. ƙasar abin da ake ciki talakawa yanzu ba kawai dai in dai kai talaka ne ɗan Najeriya to sai dai kai haƙuri. Yawwa kana tafiya ma hakan nan kawai za ga an tada wani ɗan rikici an kai ga 'yan sanda ga sojoji, amma ba za a ebe su a kai gurin da ake rigima ba, sai a bar su kowa da kowa an kashe mutane sannan a kawo jama'a. Amma mu muna son ubangiji Allah ya taimake mu da shugaban da zai kula da komai na talaka. Yawwa Allah kuma ya ba mu sa'a. To wanda zai ba da zaman lafiya, ni dai abin da zan iya yi tunda ni ban isa ba, kuma ba wani zai saurare ni ba, amma Allah da ya ni zan gaya wa Allah cewar ubangiji Allah ka zaɓan mana shugaba mai adalci. Ni kawai akan haka zan tsaya, saboda kaga dai ni ba shawara za a zo a yi mun ba, a talakan ma karamin talaka ne ni, ka gane. To ni abin da yake bakina, abin da naji zan iya faɗa ai shine zan faɗa ko. Yawwa kuma idan ana tare da mutane ka san kowa da ra'ayi, babu yadda za a yi dan ka zana da berebe inda ya sa gabansa daban, ka zana da inyamuri shi ma inda ya sa gabansa daban, ya zan iya sanin manufar kowa, ai kaga ba zai yiwu ba. Amma ni dai na san a matsayina ɗan Najeriya abin da ya dame ni dai shi zan faɗa. Yawwa ni dai ina addu'a ubangiji Allah ya ba mu shugaba mai adalci. Kawai ni iya abin da zan iya faɗa kenan.